In the summer of 1518, the streets of Strasbourg saw something truly bizarre. One woman began dancing uncontrollably, and soon, dozens more joined her. Day and night, they danced without rest. People believed they were cursed or bewitched, as no one could explain why they couldn't stop. For weeks, the dancing plague spread, with some collapsing from exhaustion, and others even dying. Was it mass hysteria? A disease? To this day, the true cause remains a mystery.
In the heart of Europe, in the year 1518, a strange and disturbing phenomenon took hold of a small town. It was not a disease of the body, at least not in the way you might expect. Nor was it madness, or was it? In the summer of 1518, an inexplicable phenomenon gripped a small town on the banks of the River Rhine. It wasn't war, it wasn't famine, but something far more bizarre, unsettling, and lethal. On a warm July day, it began with just one woman, Frau Trophäa. Without any warning, she stepped into the street and began to dance. This is the story of the Dancing Plague, a mysterious outbreak that left hundreds of people dancing uncontrollably in the streets, sometimes until they collapsed from exhaustion or even death. For hours, Frau Trophäa danced. Her neighbors gathered, watching in disbelief. But this was no ordinary spectacle. By the end of the day, she was still moving, and as night fell, she continued through the darkness. She didn't dance out of joy, nor for celebration. Her movements were not graceful or rhythmic. They were frantic. She danced, and she couldn't stop. Within a week, dozens of people were dancing uncontrollably. Some fell to the ground, only to rise again, their legs moving as if they had minds of their own. The town was overcome by this strange mania, but as the numbers grew, so did the confusion and the fear. And then something even more bizarre happened. Others joined her. By the second day, a small crowd was moving with the same uncontrollable force, as if the dancing had spread like a contagion. The city officials were at a loss. They summoned the physicians of the time, who attributed the plague not to witchcraft or sin, but to a medical condition, hot blood. In medieval belief, the body was governed by 4 humors, and an excess of heat in the blood, they thought, caused the dancing. And so, in an attempt to cure the afflicted, the city took drastic measures. They believed the dancers needed to dance it out. Musicians were hired, stages were built, and the dancing continued with even more intensity. But this so-called cure only made matters worse. The dancers, already at the brink of physical collapse, were pushed even further by the authorities. Some danced for days on end, refusing food and water until their bodies gave out. It's believed that many died as a result. Though exact numbers are unknown, some estimates suggest dozens or even hundreds may have succumbed to this strange, uncontrolled movement. Centuries later, the cause of the dancing plague remains a mystery. Was it a form of mass hysteria? Some scholars believe that the townspeople, already weakened by famine, poverty, and fear of divine punishment, experienced a psychological breakdown. Others propose a more biological explanation: ergot poisoning. Ergot is a toxic mold that can grow on damp rye, a staple in the medieval diet. Consuming it can cause hallucinations, muscle spasms, and even convulsions, not unlike the symptoms of the dancing plague. Ergot poisoning could indeed explain some of the symptoms, especially the spasms and hallucinations. But the scale and duration of the plague, lasting over a month, suggests there may have been more at play. Religion, too, may have played a role. In medieval Europe, where faith and fear walked hand in hand, such inexplicable events were often attributed to divine or supernatural causes. The afflicted were believed to have been cursed by Saint Vitus, the patron saint of dancers, and some historians believe this fear fueled the mania. As the epidemic raged on, the city's leaders decided to change course. The dancers were taken to a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus, where they prayed for deliverance. Finally, the plague seemed to lose its grip. What should have caused this plague, you may ask? There is ongoing debate as to what caused the dancing plague, just as there is debate about why it appeared and disappeared so suddenly. At the time, the primary theories were a curse from Saint Vitus or a natural medical phenomenon, though doctors were at a loss to explain why such a phenomenon might have occurred beyond the vague application of the humoral theory. Paracelsus, a Swiss physician who was alive at the time and studied the outbreak, suggested that Frau Trophäa originally started to dance as a way to embarrass her husband. Whether or not that is true, it does not explain why the plague caught on with so many other people. Paracelsus suggested that other women may also have wanted to embarrass their husbands, but this is also implausible both because of the harm that the dance did to the dancers and because the crowd of choreomaniacs was not only women and seemed to impact people of all ages. There are two major contemporary views on the dancing plague that seek to explain the phenomenon: food poisoning and mass psychogenic illness. It is unclear how many people died during the dancing plagues. In 1518, sources suggest that anywhere from 50 to 400 people might have died.